And actually, I brought a gift for anyone that comes today. It's right here behind the computer. So
your chicken dinner could get that.
yes, whoever comes can get that. Now, I attended a meeting that Kurt couldn't today. It was the 2021 Utah County Business Summit. It was interesting. Let me share some information with you about that. I talked to Kurt a little bit about that. So I'll be redundant with Kurt and then mention something that I didn't get a chance talking about. One of the things that was interesting is if we had an economist from the University of Utah come and share with us information how Utah is doing relative to the nation and how Utah County is doing relative to Utah and the nation. And one of the numbers that this economist likes to use is jobs and job growth, because it's very, very current. She has current data within about a month to 6 weeks. And that it's reliable data. And she said it is an indicator that can be relied on. And so when COVID hit last year and a half ago, we in Utah County, Utah itself, and the nation all had a huge drop in employment. It was, what did she say? The Great Recession from, it was like 2007,
2008, 2009, 13.
Over a 2-year span of time, we lost 5% of the jobs in the country. And the economists at the time were saying, we have no idea how to predict this. This is new territory for us. Well, she said, in the case of COVID, we lost, I don't remember the number, 20, some significant percentage of the jobs within 2 months. Boom. And if they didn't know how to deal with 5% over 2 years, a big number in 2 months, you can imagine nobody had a clue. And she said, if we look now, if we go back 2 years from today and say, where were we at job growth wise as a nation in Utah and Utah County, and that's 100. Today, if you look at the actually, it's August numbers for jobs. In August, the nation as an average was down to 2.5% from where it was 2 years ago. So
in March of 2020, they're down 2.5%.
Well, in August of 2021, you compare that with 2 years previous, they're down. The average, the national average is we are 2.8% below peak. Okay. If you look at Utah, we're up 3.8% from where that rock bottom, from where we were when we plummeted. So we're already beyond where we were pre-COVID. Wow. And she made a point, Utah economy is super strong. And she said in Utah County, we are 7.2% above where we were when it stopped. And that was relative, looking at August data. And she said, we're still on track. You know, she has previews of the previous numbers. But she said when she did that report, she delivered it somewhere, she had to double check her numbers because she goes, that just doesn't seem right. But she's double checked, triple checked. And we here in Utah, specifically Utah County, are in the highest performing county by far, in the highest performing state in the nation when it comes to respect to jobs. So good for us. Good for us. That was interesting. Brandon Fugel spoke. He is a commercial development realtor. They do leases. He's the biggest in the Intermountain West. And he said he is seeing a trend. Now this, you may or may not agree with it, but he said companies like Microsoft are deciding they want their employees to come back in the office because they've noticed a drop in creativity when people are working all remote. So he said, in his view, and of course it's tainted because he's in commercial real estate a little bit, and he noted that, but he said, I think the office market is coming back because there are some negatives to everybody working remotely. And Microsoft, for one, he said, is moving towards people being back together. So, and look, there are other people that say, yeah, we like working at home. There was one company that spoke there that said they surveyed their employees internally, and 30% want to stay home, 30% want to be in the office, and 40% want a hybrid model, which means more than one day working from home a week. And so 2 or 3 days in the office and 1 or 2 from home. They want flexibility. So we'll see where it lands on that score. The most interesting speaker, though, Kurt, and I'm going to look at Kurt, not you. You can look at his smiling face. He's your new mayor. I have mixed emotions, so we'll let you take a gander at Kurt mostly. But Kurt, it was really, really interesting. This guy got up. His name is Tony Child. He's a motivational speaker. He does life coaching. He's in Lehigh. He deals a lot with professional athletes that are no longer professional, and they wonder, my whole life I've been known as a professional athlete. Okay, I've injured myself, my career's ended, whatever. Who am I? I don't know anymore, right? So he said, and he's done a lot of research with universities, and maybe funded some or just participated in others. Have you listened to him before? So he talked about, and this is a sneak preview of my Highland Living article, by the way. So read it anyway. But this is a spoiler alert. It's a spoiler for that article. He said he had us draw a picture of a cloud on a piece of paper, and then a big heart underneath the cloud, and then a box. And then he said, put legs on the box on the bottom and put arms out of the heart. And he said, now you have a person. And the cloud is the way you're thinking. And the heart represents how you're feeling. And the box represents what you do and how you behave. And I may have to run over to my office because I forgot my notes, but I'll see if I can remember this. If I don't, we'll just let Kurt entertain me for a minute when I run over to my office. Anyway, on the left side of the box, he had us do a dash, on the right side, a plus. And he said, by the dash, write uncertainty and doubt and fear. And on the right side of the box, write certainty and then confidence. Okay. And he asked us, what percentage of the population do you think lives in doubt versus certainty? Either live there or visit frequent flyers. Guess.
I'm going to say 62%.
Good. I said 60. We're both wrong. 85%.
85% of the people are going to be in the negative side.
Are going to be in the negative side. They have doubt and uncertainty. And so he talked about what behaviors or what feelings that puts in you. Now I'm going to run just to make sure I get this right, okay? Because I don't want to misremember. Kurt, you can say how you're feeling about the election results. It was really uncertain for him. He was worried to the very end. He was wondering if anyone would vote for him because all it took was one. Anyway, I'll be right back.
Thank you. Some of you probably, depending when you're watching this, we still have some, the election results, we have with the city council are still fairly close with 3 of the candidates. And so with our election results, we will not be getting an update until Friday, which will be, I believe, the 12th. And so that will kind of be where we'll be getting hopefully some finalization to understand where everyone's at. I do not anticipate there'll be a lot of changes in the election results. I think what we kind of see now, we'll probably keep seeing going forward with the numbers. And that has Sarah Peterson being in first and Scott Smith being second. And I guesstimate that's kind of how it's still going to come out in the election. It was we had some very hotly debated things with Prop 1. I'm sure there's a lot of people who did a lot of research and saw a lot of information coming their way. Based off that, we've had a high voter turnout. Looks like we're going to be over 40% for a municipal election. That's a fairly high turnout. So that's good for Highland, I think, because that shows we're getting a good representation from the residents and electing officials, as well as upon the Proposition 1 and Proposition 11 that we're having a lot of the residents that have chimed in on both of those. I believe both those propositions had a really high vote on them. So I appreciate everyone that took the time to go out and vote. Those who took the time to also study out the different candidates, study out the different issues. Appreciate you taking the time there. Some of the things we wait for maybe Mayor Amanda to come back. The people maybe always ask on different things. Well, here's the mayor come back. So I'll kind of, I can kind of maybe go through some of my platform things and I kind of see kind of in the new year, but we'll go back to what you heard here at this training session.
Okay, so on the uncertainty and doubt side, if we're in that place, then in our heart we're feeling fear and we're worrying,
Anxiety.
and then anxiety comes. Anxiety is what then we start exhibiting behaviors that are related to anxiety, and this that it's depression, disease, you get sick, and then you start to decay and just lose your will to do things, which is kind of an intuitively obvious thing. And then he said, what signs can you look for in people to say they're on the wrong side of the,
Well, they're in this.
they're in this place that's not a good place to be. He said there are 3 signs. You'll find that people that are in that box, he used the term, they're looking through life through a not enough lens. So if somebody asks them to do something, I don't have enough time. There isn't enough money. There just isn't enough of whatever to get it done. Like, so if you're looking at a pie analogy, and they're assuming that life, all the resources are already defined in a single pie, and the more you ask, the more it takes away, instead of there being an ability to grow the pie, right? So that's one. And then he said, if you see people that constantly compare themselves with others, oh, they're much better than me at this, or that, or the other thing. I'm not the right person. I can't do that. I am not as good as them. Then they're on this side of the equation. And the last one we talked about, which I wouldn't have guessed, but it makes sense, is if they are entitled, so that anything that happens bad to them is not their fault, it's somebody else's fault. This happened, it's their fault. I got in an accident, it wasn't my fault. And viewing entitlement from that way, yeah, I'm entitled, and any time that I don't get what I want, it's somebody else's fault, because I'm supposed to have it. On the other side of the equation, the certainty side, you have confidence, which leads to you'll see in the heart and feel a lot of faith and love instead of fear and worry. on the behavior side, you're going to be excited and engaged as opposed to depressed. Um, there'll be momentum in your life, there'll be wellness, there'll be growth. Because that's what
It's
happens.
the positive side.
Now, what are the signs? Okay, so here are signs. There's always enough, right? Can you do that? Sure. Well, we'll figure out a way.
Yeah.
I don't worry about.
That's a question.
No, let's see. Do we have any other people here? No, still just us.
Sorry, this is.
Let's take a look at.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you on the.
Let's take a look at YouTube Live. Any questions? Nope, nobody else is watching. Yeah, okay, we'll watch it later. But what are the signs? Well, one is they're always enough. They don't compare themselves to others. They just worry about
Their situation.
their situation and how do I make it better. And then he used a term expectancy. They view anything that happens as everything's my fault. If this happens, I must have contributed to some way, and I can make it there. I can therefore make it better.
Because you have control.
I have control. It's not his fault. There's something I did that made that happen, and I can deal with it and fix it. And then for me, this is the spoiler alert on the article behind the living. He said, there is one thing that you can do. If you do it every day, you will live in or frequently visit the positive side. It's just one thing. Okay? It's very, very simple. He said, be grateful. And he said, and he had us think of someone that we're grateful for, write the name down, and think about, what is it about that person? And he said specifically somebody living today. It could also be something, but for what he was doing, it had to be a person. So think about them. He gave us 2 minutes. And then he said, okay, now, did you know that just by thinking about something or someone you are grateful for and why, that your happiness goes up 2%? Wow. Just that one act. He said, and then he said, okay, now take a picture of the name that you wrote and send it to that person and let them know why. And he said, if you express your gratitude and share it with somebody by saying, I don't know if I thanked you enough, whatever, your happiness goes up 4 to 19%. And the third phase of gratitude, which I don't know that I really, I saw the number 2 coming as soon as we started the first one. Okay, I know what's coming there. He said, it's generosity. If you live a generous life, if you give of your time and your talents and your money and express your gratitude by sharing what you have and being generous, he said, happiness goes up 43%. So Thanksgiving is a prelude to Christmas. We're thinking about people, we're thanking them, expressing gratitude. Christmas is why it is the most wonderful time of the year, the happiest time of the year, because we're giving. And that makes sense, because for me, Christmas is really a fun time of the year. I enjoy it. And there's data to support that, right? I love data. I love spreadsheets. Part of what I do. But for me, okay, this was my article, because all we have to do is be grateful every day for something, and even thinking about it. How hard is that? 2 minutes. For those of you and us that pray, maybe that's one of the reasons. So we're encouraged to pray and be grateful, because it affects our happiness.
And I think we've been taught sometimes to do grateful prayers.
Yes.
All it is to maybe get on the knees, only talk about things you're grateful for. And I'll share, maybe, I was one of those late bloomers, didn't get married till I was a little later. And as you brought up Christmas time being happy, one of the things I remember Thanksgiving being a very happy thing. You're gathering with family, but when you're single, sometimes you don't fit in. You see your family, they're all married, their kids are going forward, and you're not fitting in. And I'll admit, Christmas for you talk about happiness when you're single, sometimes it's not the most happy time. And I think that's where we've got to be careful as we head into this season. Maybe there's some that we ought to be grateful for to reach out to. And when you're saying sharing is looking for those who maybe need to be lifted, as you're talking about.
Yes.
How can we maybe go help others? And I think that's if we were going out to help those, and maybe look at those who are single, maybe look at those who have lost a spouse, and those who haven't been married, those who are struggling with different things. Maybe they have a child that's not with them. It's the relationship's not strong, and I think we're dealing with a lot. But now that led into something that's going to happen tomorrow night. You got a resilience. I think we have
Emotional resilience,
emotional
self-reliance. Yeah, Dr. Scoresby is going to hold a seminar, and really you should attend that. It's awesome. We are going to, Scott Hart's going to record it, and it's going to be available. But it teaches us how to raise kids that are self-reliant and emotionally stable. Something really, really interesting. And I think gratitude for all of us, if we can adopt that as a personal style, then if whatever our circumstances, if we focus on being generous to others, we don't have to be unhappy, right? And if we can teach people by example, that is the way forward. My dad used to tell me, when you're unhappy, go help somebody. Just go serve. And it works. It does. It's not always easy, because when you're unhappy, the last thing sometimes you
want to kind of hunker down.
You want to say, woe is me, I'm miserable, I'm going to get into my miserable blanket, and I'm just going to cozy up and get real comfortable. And we all have done that. And just don't get too comfortable there, because it's not a place that you want to stay for a long time, because there's a negative spiral there. It's not.
We got to watch out that those in the city that might have things.
Yep.
Like I said, it's a real happy time, but there's some that don't have family come gather in, and they can trigger other things for them. We got to be sensitive.
So let's be happier by going out and finding those people and serving them.
So, and watching out our neighbors.
Yeah. Well, we're all. It's funny, sometimes you live by another person and you really never know them, right? So go get to know your neighbor.
It's a good time. They'll be very, I think, welcoming. To you want to drop off a little treat or just a little card to say Merry Christmas or the Thanksgiving, things you're thankful for.
But talk to them. Don't just
I used to. I'll just drop on the door and
don't real ditch and okay, I feel good. Sometimes
it's the visit.
It's the visit. And I've been surprised at times when you knock on the door. I know when you're campaigning, I don't know if your experience was like mine, but sometimes I'd knock on the door and they'd just invite me in, and you just visit. And my challenge with knocking on doors, and I did do that when I ran for council, and I know Kurt did, and you probably had the same thing. My problem was if they were home, in 2 hours time, I could talk to like 4 people. Right.
4 to 10 is what I always thought.
I could get 20 doors. That's what I could. I'd drop off 20 flyers, and in that 2 hours, I would typically end up talking to 4 people for a long time.
They wanted to engage. There were things they wanted to ask questions on, or things that they were wanting to share. And I think we always share is that sometimes you might not, when you're talking politics, things don't always match up exact. But usually when you take the time to share, they respect your opinion, you can respect theirs, and you leave. And most of the time, as a candidate, they'll say, thank you for taking the time.
Yes.
We don't agree because you took the time, you're gonna show time as in elections aspects.
And this is an interesting aspect to elections. Somebody mentioned it to me yesterday when we talked about it, and that was that we have a really close race on the second council seat. And those two candidates were diametrically opposed on a number of issues.
I mean, but they felt different.
But they're close, and it's so. When you talk to people, it's not necessarily the specific issues that matter, it's something else, whatever. And so the fourth candidate, it's not necessarily the issues that created that gap. Right. So there are other reasons and other factors. And if you're
Unfortunately, I think in some financially it affects things. Can you get your message out?
right,
That does, as you look at different candidates, do they have do they have a platform to get the message out?
you know what, and that matters sort of, but like when I ran for council, I spent 5 times less than the competitors, the major competitors. But I knocked on half the doors on Highland. The other candidate that won, Dennis LeBaron, he spent 15 times less. He spent $1,000 versus 15. And he still was number 2. So it's not necessarily,
It's not always issues.
it's not issues, it's not even necessarily money, right? It can be a number of things. Yep.
Well, knocking doors doesn't cost money.
No,
And I think
costs time.
it costs time, but I think people appreciate you taking the time. It shows you're interested, it shows you're good. Take the time to go in and visit with them if you want to know about the issue. It's still, even now, as if someone's on council or mayor, I think if you have an issue come up, if you'll still show time to go try to research it, that people respect when you vote, because they know that you try to get the information you could.
And that's something Kurt, by the way, that's one of his, we'll call it superpowers. He takes the time to go talk to
It's
people.
a street, and there's others that do it. It's not, I mean,
We all have our strengths, right? That's one that you do probably better than anybody on the council. Just go talk to people, except maybe Britain.
Brittany, I think there's a lot of.
But it's the time, and Kim does as well, and they all do. But every
Different issues, yeah.
but I think that's one where you excel, and so that's
So I hope, as we head into the new year, the residents, I think you've been very good on. I think someone reached out to you. You always took the time to listen. I think you've been very good on social media. I think is communicating out on social media and being willing to share what's going on has been very good. Of course, your data. The ones we will miss always the data.
yeah. Yeah, and I enjoy collecting that. So maybe that's my superpower.
You have a skill set that I've not seen in a lot of people's, with the way you collect data or the way you kind of look at it. And it's hard because data can be interpreted a lot of different things. I think for the most part, you've been very fair in how you collected and looked at it and try to analyze it.
I try to be, and I share it with everybody. So if you don't like the way I interpret it, you can look at it and don't.
No, I'll come back tomorrow night. I think it'll be important. Lynn Scoresby's a very skilled therapist,
And he's been around a long
yeah,
time.
it has some good skill sets, understands probably what a lot of people are dealing with. I think we'll give some good input to people.
Yeah, and I talked to him a few times, and there's a significant problem, and it's everywhere. We are not safe here in Highland or Alpine. Or yes, this is a great place to be, and yes, there's a good community, but the problems exist. They do. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. I hope you come early. I expect it to be full. Maybe it won't be, but come early. That'll get you a good seat. And there'll be a significant period of time where we can do Q&A with the speaker, which is sometimes where the best stuff comes out. Right? I don't know about you, but if you just like Sunday school lessons, for me, the best part of the lesson is not always the teacher, it's the interaction that happens between the participants for the teachers that facilitate that. So to me, a good teacher is one that facilitates discussion, and there'll be a good time for discussion, and he'll have some interesting insights. He'll tell stories. Of course, they'll be anonymized, but it's just really, really sad. And but there's so many good things. Like last night, like Noah Reed, right? What a great story. 9-year-old kid, he's now 10. He gets a brain tumor. He has multiple surgeries to get rid of the tumor. He goes through chemo, radiation, and then it's gone. But I'll tell you, and we've both had experience with kids where you don't know the outcome. And in this case, there was a period of time when the parents didn't know, and it got resolved quicker than some other circumstances. But that's a really dark time when you are wondering why him, why not me or somebody else, or maybe we get into the entitled mode here where this is not part of my plan. I've been there. My wife, it's painful. And so I'm really grateful in this case for the parents who stuck with it and provided care. And it can be months, it can be years, it can be a long time, depending on what's going on. But it's really, really hard when it's your children, because even when a friend, I don't know how many times I said in my life, why I'll do that. It's harder for me to have them to go through something hard than me go through something hard. Always is.
You want to be a picture?
Yep, you just do. And as a kid, I'll tell you, I don't. Some of you may have heard this before, but as a teenager, as a 15-year-old kid that isn't thinking really well on common sense and stuff, I was exercising and I pulled something off a wall. I broke something, and I was exercising with bungee cord, and it was connected to something that broke. And the bungee cord, the clip hook was like this big, and my head was down. I was pulling on it. I was a swimmer. We were actually, and it hit the top of my skull. I was having a contest with my friends. I won clearly, but it shattered the top of my skull, and it severed a major blood vessel. And I wasn't. For some reason, I was not unconscious ever, but I was twitching around for a bit, and then I couldn't move my left leg. Just paralyzed, and I couldn't speak. I could think, like, I want Jim to come with me to the hospital. It's my friend, and all that would come out was Jim. I could do one word. I couldn't speak a sentence, even though I could think it. Went to the hospital, had surgery. Doctor said he'll never walk again. And I remember being there. I remember, I could feel I could pinch my leg, I could feel it, but it felt like it was encased in concrete because I couldn't move it. And then I could manually pick it up and move it. Because the bone grows, they took out the fragments, they smoothed the hole, and then they said, we're going to have to let it grow 6 months. So they sewed me back up. I had to wear a hockey helmet to school. That was, for me, probably the worst thing, was wearing this stupid helmet to school. I was just,
How old were you again?
16. I was my sophomore year. I was shy. I just didn't want to go to school. Now, 2 weeks after the accident, I was in therapy, and they were having me do jumping jacks and one leg would work, one leg it wouldn't, and then I'd do parallel bars. And I think this was my maybe second or third time in therapy. And I just looked at my mom when I was doing the jumping jacks, and I saw her look at me, and I could just see the hurt and the pain that she had, because now as an adult, I realized it, but I could just see that there was a lot of pain there. And something clicked in my brain, and my leg just started working, just like that. Instant. That was truly miraculous. And so, I went to school, but for me, that whole process was not that hard. It was just not that hard. Whereas I know my parents and like my coach, he was just devastated because he felt like, oh, they got sued because I gave out these things for, and it was my fault for, I lost the rope that I was using, and I took a bunch of yarn. And I just knotted it up and but as a kid, I just pushed through it. But when I got to be a parent and we had health problems with one of our kids, I go, oh, I know what my parents went through, and it was so hard, and it made me appreciate my parents more, but it is so painful. So anyway, I'm getting back to come visit with Dr. Scoresby, learn how tools, he'll give us tools we can do to help avoid some of the problems that we might have. And it'll be good. And so I'm going to go try and steal somebody and talk to us. So he's out and about trying to get someone to come over here. We'll see if he's going to be successful. There's a couple of people that walked here in the library, so he's going to try to grab them. That says they'll come talk to us. I don't know exactly what he wants to have to talk to us about, but so it'll be interesting to see what he comes in. He's found some of the current. And I do once a month, I do a meet with the mayors. Okay. Meet with the mayor, and since he's elected, it's time to meet with the mayors. And so he's here, we're just talking. Mayor. Hi, this is Kurt Ostler.
Sorry, Mike Burrows.
Where's he living in Highland at?
We live across, we live by Roland Woodland.
Oh, I know exactly. I'm at Highland Elementary.
Side.
Yep, I know exactly.
I recognize that name. So
Were you in the homes when there was a
We were in
sewer issue? So if you remember when we had the sewer issue down by Highland Elementary, their house was affected.
Our house was probably the least.
Yeah, you were on the corner, right? Yeah, I do. And I remember going down in the basement to look to see what was going on down there.
Yeah. Good memory.
So what
are
brought
you in the cul-de-sac on the corner?
The Woodlands are back in.
First one on the right hand side. Okay, yeah, we did.
Directly across fight.
You guys came through.
That was a
hard one.
hard one.
There's the Kill Pack home.
Yes.
They were probably the worst affected.
And they're the ones that had all that furniture in their backyard, and then it rained.
And you lived next to Ryan Chisels. One of the things I remember going there, Ryan Chisels had their young kids downstairs and they had all these stuffed animals. And seeing the little kids with all the sewage on the stuffed animals. And that was just seeing the kids, and they were trying to get everything out. And a lot of the art, if someone's not aware that's watching, it was a sewer backup down by Highland Elementary. I think it affected 7 homes. We heard that day, hey, go tell the residents, the city will take care of it. And then, but within a couple of days, it was the city saying, go try to take care of insurance. And I think the residents were trying to figure out what to do until we finally got all the insurance put together, got the contractor that was involved and nurse insurance.
Yes.
And I think hopefully everything from what we've been hearing,
At the end of the day, it got settled well, but there was a period of about a month with a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, the Kill Pack's I would say it's probably been within probably 2021, they just barely got everything done. Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. Got sheetrock all in the basement. I mean, it was,
That was a bad.
They were like, ankle calf deep. And
Yes. They would have the fountain in the toilet.
yeah, this is sewage. This isn't just water. This is sewage.
So
Sorry about that.
it was an interesting time. Yeah. There was we had the abatement people come through, because we had just that little spot. But when the disaster cleanup people came through, nobody put on a booty or anything like that, and so they were walking through it, and then they wanted to see if there was any other spot in the basement, and then up the stairs and out, and so we had to replace carpet throughout the basement.
Well,
So it was a good learning experience, that's for sure.
yeah, well, it was like this error on top of error on top of error, right? Because our insurance said we don't cover that because it's the fault of the contractor that's doing it, and the contractor was Geneva Rock, and they're one of the bigger roads people, and they said, well, it was our subcontractor that did it, so we have to go to his insurance first. Well, he had just changed insurances that summer. And I talked to the insurance broker and he said, look, we'll take care of this, we'll stand by it. And then they found out that when he switched from one company to another, he didn't bring over a pollution control component.
Writer.
And that was his fault. And after they figured that out, I couldn't even get a hold of him anymore.
Yeah, I thought Geneva Rock's the one that stepped up with their
Right, and then, but this guy who said, no, we'll take care of it, we'll cover it. As soon as he found out they had made a mistake, he wasn't going to talk to me anymore. And then Geneva did pick up and cover it. But it had to go through that process because their insurer had to say, well, they had to know that there was no coverage, and then they picked it up. And then they went above board, above normal, because I think they almost got it was 90-something% replacement value.
There was a lady that got involved with my wife, and she was helpful.
That was the Geneva Rocks insurance lady. Yeah, we talked it out.
And then our neighbor has a construction company, Mac McGuire. He's in the house across the street.
And he was not impacted.
He wasn't. So he was the one that ended up kind of working with the insurance lady and giving all of us bids, and it was quite a process.
But nobody wants to wake up in the morning. When you wake up, you're not anticipating in a few hours they'll be suing your basement, right? It's just not, we don't even think about that. And so
then they got a call, and so then all of a sudden she I think called you guys, and Todd came down
right.
with his guys, and when Todd and his guys saw what was happening, it was like super scramble. And
well, and
it was an interesting morning.
It was, and at that time, the city did not have a sewer pump truck. And we were calling USSD, to try to get their pump truck up to hurry up and try to take care of it. Now the city actually has a pump truck, so we can get on a little faster. The pump truck will kind of take over. If they're starting, we can start to process the sewage if you want to suck it out and get things going faster.
Yeah, it happened that our sewer guy just knew who the driver of that was, and he called him directly, so he didn't go channels, and the guy just came over. So within 20 minutes, it was there and cleaned out, but a lot can happen in 20 minutes.
So any questions?
Especially when it's liquid like that.
Yeah. Any questions for the new mayor or concerns or?
I think so. Not that I can think of right now. We utilize the library quite a bit.
Are you happy with
I noticed your wife came and grabbed on the computer, so it looks like you're using some of their
We had
computers.
a printer go down, so
I had it over here for it.
some here to print this.
well, that's a nice backup, right?
Nice backup, yeah. Good. So we were part of the Eagle project, that put these wood hands.
Oh, nice.
And so I was like, yeah, they're still pretty good.
They actually, because they were just metal, right?
They were.
Yeah, that looks really nice.
The boy who did it from his mission, Washington DC.
Nice.
For about a year now. His family's moved. But yeah,
It was a good project.
yeah.
That is a little bit sad that scouting is diminished.
Yeah.
That was just, that was a source of
A lot of service.
a lot of service being there and a lot of good for the people involved.
We just gotta tap in. It's not that they're not service projects and things, but we gotta tap
But
in.
it's not organized in the same
It's
way.
not the same, but I think there'll be some.
Yeah. Just encouraging young men to buy something, even if they're not getting a badge or something.
As an activity, maybe it's just pretty much.
Nice.
All right, take us time.
Okay. I haven't done Goose Egg yet.
You have a goose day.
Goose Egg, nobody, no shows for me with the mayor.
Oh, someone showed up?
No, I just got one.
Oh,
We are at 10 minutes away. Is there anything we want to talk about? I'll just say grateful to the Highland residents that passed the park tax. I know tax can be a 4-letter word. But the city's revenues are constrained. The property tax does not index for inflation.
it does not adjust. We get that.
Right. If your property value doubles, the tax rate just goes in half, basically, for the city. Now, it seems like our property tax is always going up. That's because you've got school districts and other entities that add to your property tax bill.
So I guess the best way I explain, so let's assume when we pass the property tax and we say, okay, we're gonna collect $1 million.
Yes.
If there's not another home built, it doesn't matter how much the value of the other homes, we only collect $1 million.
Yes.
The only way we increase above that million is we have a new home built.
Right.
That comes in it and we get that assessment.
Correct.
On top of that. And
Now,
so,
that new home brings with it costs, right?
Correct.
You get public safety, we have sewer, we have water. Those are covered by fees, but library users were in the library today.
we've got that. We have some business growth coming in. It's gonna be exciting to see. We've got 2 new restaurants going in over by the Lone Peak,
Right.
Ridge,
Irby's and
Costa
Vida, and those will be done next year sometime.
They will, and then we'll also have at least probably another restaurant over by
Do we
Myers.
know that we can share that or not?
Yes, they said they got signed leases. I actually called and talked to the tenant. And they kind of said, yes, I've been trying to be a little sensitive about it, but it will be a Hawaiian restaurant or
A Hawaiian style food,
yeah,
and it'll have a drive-through component.
they will. We'll have also another man's type of haircut coming down there.
Yes, one I can't afford to use.
Yeah, all this-
That would just be a splurge. But they massage, they do head massages and shampoos and. I will propose this now. I think that a future mayor should get as a perk, one of those after every council meeting.
Are we delayed here?
This is, I'm looking at YouTube Live, going back to Zoom.
You're fine. You're fine. I just look at it going, hold on, I'm not moving up there. So it's no, we've got some exciting growth. We've got, I think, another a sports kind of fitness place coming in over by Lululemon.
Okay.
We've talked to WPI, which owns the shopping center where Macy's is at. We try to talk to them about I think they've got another kind of spa type of thing coming in, but they do have space that the intro restaurant wanted to go in. They do have it with the grease trap.
Yep.
We've got in front of Burke Brothers, we've got some office space coming in there. I think one will be a medical user. I think they still have some others. We've got over here Apple Creek, which is over by Ace Hardware. They're building some townhomes, or I guess there could be some single family with a townhome component.
I think it's 8 or 10 townhomes, and then the rest,
Right.
40.
Yeah,
They're small lot homes, but small lot does not mean small price.
that's what we learned last.
Those will probably be
7.
6, 7. It's like when you buy a car, starting at means, okay, you're getting a car with no wheels. Right?
And if that develops out right, we've got 2 commercial spaces
Yes.
going there between UVCC and Ace. And we really encourage them to try to put restaurant users or some type of
Retail.
retail food user down there. We keep hearing that people like to eat here in Highland, and so we want to try to support that. So I mean, there's some cool things still coming on. And we've got it crossed over by the little Caesars and Quick Quacks out. We got all that space that
So it'll come slowly, but it'll come. And I think, I don't mind commercial growth when it serves our community residents. It's not bad. I just, there's a bit of a misconception that if we get another grocery store that we won't have nearly as much taxes. We had our finance guy look at what do we collect when we have a retail business come in, and it turns out it's about $1 a square foot a year. That's a rough average of them. So you can look at Macy's, and that's about what 40,000, 42.
might expand it.
It's 43,000 square feet. So another grocery store would mean $43,000 a year. Now, our general fund budget is about 11 million. So it will help, but it's not a silver bullet.
Well, another thing, to also say, we don't know if we go to supporting another grocery store. You got, Walmart, one thing, you got Macy's, you got a Myers, you got a Smith's, you got a Harmons on the
So
road.
are you gonna cannibalize as opposed to?
Are you just shifting cells from one to another? Our market study we did, I think it was about 2 to 3 years ago, just showed that what we could support wasn't as strong as what we hoped. Maybe now we can support a lot of restaurants. Even over by Lone Peak with the Ridgeview, they might have Costa Vida and Arby's, but there's also on the other side of the road there, which would be on the north, they're going to have some commercial pads there that still might have a food user, 1 or 2 food users come in there.
And that we'll just have to wait and see. We can't make anybody come here. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
They all like to think they can get some incentives on things, but I don't think it's going to cause someone to come by giving them incentives. So.
And if we incentivize one, then there's always the discussion. Well, what about the people already here? What do you do with that? Why did they get benefiting, not me?
Are we okay talking about maybe the little right away that we might be out?
Yeah, no, that's coming. So it'll sort out. We did. This is actually really exciting news. Where Myers is, we got permission from Rocky Mountain Power for money. You have to pay them money, but to have a road built out to 5,600. So you can leave Myers or Fizz or UPS and get onto 5,600 and then get on.
It just allows for connectivity. We have in our retail area there. It's a very poor connectivity area where you get in the Myers Beach, and you're gonna have a new building going in there, which is just a new Hawaiian, the new haircut place, maybe an ice cream user or something that way.
That would be nice.
That you have come in. There'll be that building that's gonna be built. You'll probably see it. They might be putting footings foundation in here in the next couple of weeks. Then you got, of course, the Fizz, but it'll help flow. And so there's probably for safety, allows safety.
And we believe because of that, it'll trigger a flag for UDOT to say, we will now put a light at 5,600. That might be a year or 2 out, but that will happen. So that's a good thing. And then another bit of good news, 6,800 looks like it's going to happen next week. That's the road to Costco. We're hoping to be able to have bids out before the end of the year. And
that'll be a major project.
That is the road that I've heard more complaints about than any other road.
Hopefully that way, and there needs to be a little bit of widening. There needs to be, just for that safety flow there, and so that will be exciting. And there's always to be something coming up that we didn't see on the horizon.
Yes, do you want to? We could mention what Mr. Dobbins told us. I got a call today from the Draper City manager. His name is David Dobbins, And he said, I'm just telling you this, we just heard about it today. I'm just sharing the news. I don't know how real anything is or whether what can be done. But he said Blue Bison has approached them and said, okay, we are going to develop at between 30 and 50 homes on the north of Beacon Hills there. We're going to go out through Highland Boulevard. So
Not through Highland, going as the road going down Suncrest.
west to Highland Boulevard where it comes down from Suncrest. And we are going to fence our property. And so the news there was that their claimed intent is to fence the property so that, which would prevent people from using the trails or connecting to the trails north from their property. Whether that can be stopped or not, that's a question. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a tactic to, in a way, force Highland to allow a connection to their development. I don't.
Not be forced, encouraged.
It's
You're not going
encouraged.
to be allowed to encourage what they can do to try to get something.
Right, and my response to threats or encouragement is always, I dig my heels in, right? I will make a decision, but if you threaten me, I'm going to really look hard, and my initial bias is going to be no. So I don't know how effective that will be, but maybe that's a strategy to get the trail users all excited and animated.
Because that's a hog hollow area. I mean, what you really talk about is that
It's well used.
comes up. There's a lot of the hog hollow. They come up. We have a mountain bike trail that comes out of our Beacon Hills Park area where people kind of ride up in that area. We've got where we have our pressurized irrigation pond up there that people park and access.
And we've improved that.
Yeah.
There was a service project that improved that trailhead there. So let's just see that, something always comes up that we don't see. This is one.
Well, you have that, the residents probably what will be surprising them. I think some are starting to get surprised is over what we call Ridgeview by Olympic High School. They're going to see a lot of townhomes popping up there. That used to be owned by the state of Utah when it was kind of going through. The city kind of had to deal some things because there was some manipulation going on there that if it was going to go and stay in Highland or what was going to happen. It was owned by the state. But one thing we have noticed, and I noticed this, the trick or treat, the Highland City Christmas trick or treat street. We had a lot of new families here with a lot of young kids. And as that Ridgeview comes in, we had over 500 trick or treaters come through the city.
Yes.
And I keep thinking, what do we have when Ridgeview comes in? They go, we're going to have over 1,000 trick or treaters come to that Christmas treat street, which is exciting.
Right.
But there's going to be growth. It's going to come in different ways. And there's like you said, there's a lot of changes always still about.
Yep. There's
a lot of good people. We have a lot of good people moving to the Highland, a lot of good people here.
The happy side on that equation says we're grateful that we have so many good people coming out, right? That's the happy side. And that's true. There will be. I don't think there may be one or two people in my life that the more I got to know them, the more I realized, no, I really still like them. Most people, the more I get to know them and the more I understand them, I developed a real love for them because I understand, if there was something I was worried about, when I get to know them, they've been through this or that. This is within them. I could never have done that, right? There are so many people are in the world that are really, really good. And, I tend to be optimistic. I'm gullible. I think the best of people. Sometimes you get burned doing that. But I don't know, I'd rather be gullible and have a positive outlook than not gullible and be miserable. So I'm sure there's a happy medium here, but I'm on the other side of the equation. And things always turn out well. We did not get any questions tonight. I hope at some point you take a minute, listen to this. I think it's a good conversation tonight. The meet with the mayor in December may or may not happen.
Because we kind of moved a little bit of a Christmas party with the staff.
Yeah, so we have, there is a Christmas party that I'm obligated to go to on the 8th. We could defer it to the 9th, do it on Thursday. We'll just have to play by ear. But there is some fun stuff coming up. There is, again, reminder tomorrow, be here or be square. On the 6th of December, there is story time with the mayor and his wife at City Hall. That's always fun. My wife and I get dressed in our PJs. And
And I've heard there might be a gentleman in a red suit coming up.
there might very well be.
I've heard that.
I hadn't heard that. I hope so. And one of our stories includes a gift that that red suit person might be handing out. We will. There'll be a little bit of cross. We're doing it in two groups, so one at 6:30 and one at 7:15. Okay. And we'll be doing two stories. It's one of the more fun things that we've done. We did it the first year in the library, in the kids' library over here, and then the next year was too crowded.
How many kids do you think will be there?
No, we could end up with, I think it's 100. We could end up with. I hope there's a lot. It's really fun. If you want to see the mayor in his PJs, I have nightshirt and leggings.
Sharing a story with
And
them.
we're reading two stories, and there'll be a little bit of crafts. And then we may have somebody in a red suit come.
Very Christmas.
Yes. And maybe that person would continue. The library is closing. So I'm going to say goodnight.
Thank you for those who've watched and taken the time.
So we're going to